Hello everyone, I'm a talking beer can. This is super useful for you all. Let's make sure that I'm live. Welcome to the Talking Beer Can Show. Today, the beer can is going to be talking about the different cans of beer that beer can, in fact, can. Oh, wait. Sorry. I have no idea what happened there. We just have a large stack of stuff here for Malts and Meeples unboxing. And I do plan on tossing in a little gameplay here at the end, getting back to a little bit of the solo gaming that we've done on the channel before. Of course, we have this big box to deal with, plus another one underneath. Well, let me slide them out of the way, ish, so that can get going here and talk about today's beer instead of having today's beer talk at us. This is from a local Minneapolis brewery, Arbiter, and it is their Chocolate Imperial Stout. So it's a 9.7% by ABV. I have a big old crawler of it. Friend brought it over for the Super Bowl. Didn't get drunk. My goodness. And I have no fingernails. There we go. That worked well. Ish. By well-ish, I mean not well at all. But let's give this a try. So, very nice beer here. It has big multi-flavors and a fair amount of bitterness to this. So this is a Chocolate Imperial Stout, like I said. And like I said last time, I want to do a little bit more talking about the different types of beers and going into what I'm drinking a little bit more so. So kind of the topic that I wanted to cover this time is stouts versus porters. Like, what's the difference between those two? And I really need to add in a secondary version of my webcam for a larger image for this stuff. But with a stout, generally they're going to be a little bit more bitter. Not necessarily, but that's can be one of the defining features. Really, a stout and a porter are going to be very similar in taste and kind of how they're developed. The stout might lean a little bit more towards, like I said, being a little bitter, as well as then potentially having more of a roasted taste to it. A porter doesn't necessarily have the roasted malts in it. It's going to have a dark malts for sure in it, but with a stout you might get a little bit more of that roasted flavor coming through. At least generally that's the idea that they go for when it comes to a stout. And this one definitely is fairly forward in being a darker, more bitter beer. Another way to look at it would be like a stout. It's fairly common to see like a coffee stout, but you don't see a coffee porter because the porter's sweet flavors don't necessarily marry as well or create as complex a coffee flavor as you get by adding coffee into a stout. This, well, it says it's a chocolate imperial stout, and I do get a little bit of chocolate. Like, this is, well, I get a fair amount of chocolate, but tastes like 80% plus dark chocolate, which is perfectly fine by me. Dark chocolate is by far the way to go when it comes to chocolate. But that feels like enough about beer. Let's spend some time diving into these two expansions. Now, normally, I won't say normally because fairly often I will get expansions for games that I haven't necessarily played much yet, or in this case, played yet at all. So the reason for picking this up is, and I mentioned the races while I unboxed the base game last week. The base races are just humans, elves, dwarves, and orcs. That's pretty normal. This first expansion, besides making it 5 to 6 players in the Order and Chaos expansion, has Lionkin, Lizardfolk, Undead, and Goblins. Now, you could say Lizardfolk, it's fairly similar to something like the Dragonborn in D&D. Lionkin, there are Tabaxi in Dungeons & Dragons, but that one's fairly unique. Undead is generally not a playable group in Dungeons & Dragons, and Goblins, are still fairly common fantasy, but it is still something different. Let's see what we have in here. We again have a rule sheet. We have a couple of bases for the flying ships, and you can see, I think this is just a ship for the orcs here. Have all their tower pieces. So orcs, undead. Yeah, it has to be undead. Or is this lizard folk? No, this will be lizard folk here. This will be goblin. So undead, lion. I'm gonna have to look. Fortunately, you can flip it over the other way. So lion, goblin, lizard, undead. We have the character boards. So this is for the Lionkin. And the flip side is going to be for the solo gameplay. Yes, Studio Lanniston, just orcs. Orcs are better than goblins, but just by a little bit. The Lionkin and the lizard folk are definitely where it's at. So we have here the undead. We have goblins. And I do say I do like the artwork for the goblins. The tyrant and the pyros is how I see goblins generally. I've played a lot of Magic the Gathering, and most certainly had a goblin deck that was all about turning out lots of small little goblins to have them explode. So those are the pyros down there. And finally, we have our lizard folk. So to make it an expansion for more, you need more board. And we have more board to look at. Somewhere on here there's tape. I apologize for the noise. Show off a couple of these guys here. So, Undead, Lionkin, fairly easy to tell there. The box below of minis is going to have some of the other ones. This tape is out to get me. Well, here we go. We have our goblin pyros and our lizard folk. I am very impressed, really, with the quality of the painting and the look of these minis. Like, I would not want to paint minis this size, and obviously we have a lot of minions or smaller characters that are not painted, but the fact that this game comes with painted bosses or like painted leaders is great. It makes it pop even more on a table than it would normally, and it already is going to pop a whole lot because, man, this is a massive game. It's going to take up most of your table. The table that I am streaming on is probably about 6 feet by 4 feet, and I'm pretty sure everything is would fill up this table. Yeah, so the edition that I got, and this was not really intentional. The first one, base game that I got, was the deluxe edition, and that was just what they had at the my friendly local game store, which was not what I thought was going to happen. I thought, like, okay, it's a deluxe edition. I didn't even notice that when I picked it up, and then I saw that, opened it up, and I was like, okay, I guess that means we got painted minis in it, which is sweet. I've barely started delving into painting, and on stuff that's like that tall, not that tall. Alright. Let's see about getting this opened. Hopefully it's slightly less noisy than last time. It won't be. So this is the Pestilence Expansion, and this takes it up to 7 players. If I remember correctly, on the base box it says 1 hour per player. So 7 players is a 7-hour game, theoretically. I'm not sure if there are changes or anything like that that's made. But we have in here, we have the rulebook like normal. And I forgot to talk about the two races that come in this. We have merfolk and birdfolk. So it's nice. We have more stands. I know on the Gloryhound Discord server, Fatal Papercut was saying that some of his stands came broken. Looking at all of mine, they look good. Directions on how to put this together. Kind of looks like a cheat sheet and some stuff floating continent. Alright, let's see what we have here. So this is going to be the birdfolk stuff. This is their boat, towers, capitol buildings. Then we have the merfolk and all of their towers, boats, stuff like that. And then we have the airships. Interesting. So basically how is they print how everything connects on the back, but this does not tell me which group this is for. So that's that's a difference between this one and the other one, but not a major deal. We have our merfolk, and again I picked these up because really the merfolk and birdfolk are pretty different than your standard D&D type things, and I've played a lot of D&D, or I've ran a lot of D&D, so I always like to try and find the more unique things like these birdfolk. I mean, there are some in Dungeons and Dragons, so there's something that's equivalent. I have no idea what this is for. I'm hoping it's not just a separator and that it actually is used for something, because that is really cool looking. It's like a nice swirl pattern on it. And then we have a punch out chunk of land. So, oh, cool. So that is put on an island to submerge it. Thank you, Studio Lanniston, for letting me know that. And this is going to be the floating island, basically up in the clouds for the birdfolk. And yes, that makes perfect sense that there would be an underwater island for the merfolk. I probably should have put two and two together on that, but I most certainly did not. And I like the fact that we have these tall standees here to get the flying continent or flying place that the birdfolk would use. This box is a little bit smaller because we don't have, let's keep that here, it gives a nice white background, as many minis in it. I can tell where it's taped. So over here we have the birdfolk, over here we have the merfolk, and yeah, that merfolk brute of a creature is very cool, and I think might be about the largest of the characters that I've unboxed. And then there are always some tokens and some cards that go in everything as well. I haven't opened up any of the cards yet, but you can see the two armies, the blue of the bird folk and the pinkish of the merfolk, which I might have reversed if I were them. Thematically, it makes more sense that merfolk would be bluish. So, let's move all of this stuff back over. Yes. So you can see here playing with the merfolk and how they cover up an area. Yeah. So the humans are blue, which I assume there probably was like a true blue in there, but I could not remember from the base set what it might have been. Or if I had already looked at it earlier today, or earlier this stream. So, thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense then why they probably didn't go with blue for the merfolk and went with more like an air-colored blue for the birdfolk. But now I have all of that to punch and put together. The base set, the 4 original ones, probably took me hour, just a little bit longer to put all their ships, towers, and whatnot together. I was also gluing as I went, and I was doing it during the toddler's nap time, so I didn't really feel like I was rushed, which was nice. So maybe could get it done faster, but this is probably going to be a weekend project for me to put them all together. But I did say I was going to pull out and play a little Deadly Doodles. And so this is as they call it, a draw and draw game. It's everything that's a blank and draw I'm going to be referring to as a roll and write from here on out. Just because I need a consistent wording to use. This is a dungeon crawl-esque game. I use a nice clean one that's never been used before. And I'll quickly talk about how this game works. So, in this game, you're trying to collect treasures. And let me zoom in here. Just 1 second while this adjusts. There we go. And I'll show the scoring at the end here, or when it becomes relevant. So we have treasures here that are going to give you points, +2 for each treasure you cross. We have monsters here that you can fight. But to beat a monster, you need their matching weapon. The weapons themselves are worth 1, but if you get the weapon and the monster, it's worth 4 points. Plus the 1, so 5 total points. And finally, we have this dragon, who thematically it would make sense that he's going to eat me, but he actually doubles the points of every treasure you do. Let me see, shift there. So you can see kind of what some of these cards look like, and I'll show off the 4 that I get every time. But let's say these are 2 of them. On my turn, I would draw and mark down for turn 1, basically to keep track. And then I would place, connected to this, or connected to something that I've already done before, across this one. The trick is I can't do that because I run it into the wall. So when playing all the cards, you kind of have to think about how you're going to place them, because if you can't use a card, you get negative points. So you get -1 for each, or -2 for each card that you can't use. You also do get +1 for every unused entryway like this one. So when you, after the first turn, when you have to come in from an exit or entry, you can continue to build off of what you've previously done. Or you can start by going in another area. The game lasts a total of, I just realized I need to double check this because it's different than Railroad Ink. So this one goes 7 rounds. Or it might be the same as Railroad Ink, but I thought it was different. Either way, we have 7 rounds to see how good a score we can get using as many cards as possible. Or using as many routes as possible, crossing as many things on here as possible. So I'm going to flip out so you can see what I'm working with to start here. 2 straights, a turn, and a T. Alright, let's see. So 1. Put a turn in there. Go across the weapon. And then continue on up to there. So when I go across the weapon, they're nice enough to give you all the weapons down here and all the monsters right here. So I don't have to remember that this is weapon F. I just cross it off down here for scoring. It makes it very slick to play. So after I've marked all of those off as 1, we get a turn, straight, a dead end, and a turn. So that's an interesting combo. And now I could come in a different area if I wanted. But I'm not... So I'm going to continue off of where I was before, because I can go there, 2, turn, 2, and because it's a dead end, I don't hit the wall, so I now have weapon E as well. Let me jot down that that was number 2. So now I need to go find and fight those monsters to get points. Otherwise, this might be a really low scoring one. So we have a cross, turn, cross, T. And now it becomes a little bit trickier because I'm fairly close to some walls, so I can continue up here, but there's nothing that I really want in this area to get, so I'm probably going to come in a different area. Coming over here. Going across monster F, and then we'll turn there to extrapolate that for turn 3. So you can see it, like, this game goes very quickly. Normally I sit down and play it twice, maybe 3 times in a sitting. Probably just do 1 for the stream. But now here we have a T, a cross, a T, and a dead end. And in this deck there are also a couple draw 2s, which you toss out that card when you draw it and draw 2 additional cards. So I could have 5 or potentially 6 different shapes that I have to fill in, or paths that I have to fill in, I should say. So let me see, where do I want to go now? I can get weapon A here. I could come, I cannot get this treasure easily. I could not get that treasure efficiently. So let's actually come in up here on turn 4. Get weapon C. This apparently is going to be a weapon heavy time. So now I really need to, I have no treasures. F, E, and C. I've taken out the F monster. It'd be really nice to take out E and or C, as well as picking up some treasure now as we get to turn 5. So here we have one of our draw 2s. I have a straight line, and a turn. Add another straight line, and another turn to it. Nice thing is with the turns always look like this. Just rotate it whatever which way you need to turn. So, for example, with those, I could do 5, 5. There's monster C. And all I'm doing is going in a straight line at this point. It'd been nice to deal with a little bit more, but right now this is how I'm getting points, is by fighting the monsters. I'm hoping that we get the other draw 2. It's handy to have those additional cards. So we have a turn, a line, and a dead end. Alright, let's see. So I think what I'm going to do is just go right there. So it's turn 6. I got my first treasure, so I mark that down below. And we're going to see how good a score this ends up being. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. A dead end, turn, or a T, a dead end. So it's important, and this is my one knock on the game. I got a T and a line there as well, is that I have 2 dead ends now. From what I can tell in the rules, you are building out a path each time. And so I don't believe if I draw 2 dead ends on one turn, I believe I have to have an unused card, which is always unfortunate. But yeah, it's unclear in the rules, so that's how I've been playing it. I could see it potentially going either way. But yeah, like I said, that's how I've been playing it thus far. I'm not going to be changing that up right now. pull that down so you can see all of it. So I have Monster E that I can attack. I have obviously some treasures floating about, 1, 2, 3 of them remaining that I could try and get to. I think since I can't easily get to Monster E without wasting a lot of cards, I think I'm going to be going after this treasure here. So we have our straight line, our T, our other T, and then we'll come down here and Dead End. So that means I do have one unused card, but I do get another treasure. And that wraps up the game. Like, that is all of the game, and you can see how playing this solo would probably go really fast. Let's slide this up, show off the scoring now. So 2 points for each loot you cross. Double the score if you cross paths with the dragon. I did not. I only crossed 2 treasures, so that is 4. Each weapon, I have 3 of them, so +1 for each. 3. +2 for each monster I kill, so that's +4 or 8, excuse me. -2 for each monster I cross but don't kill. And I guess maybe you might be stuck kind of doing that at some point in time and hope that you do better in the future, but I don't think I've ever gotten a negative point off of that. +1 for each unused entry. I have not used 2 of them, so this one and this one. This one counts as used because even though I didn't go in there, I've used that spot. So then -2. And there are no traps when you play solo. So in multiplayer, when a trap card is flipped, and they're not even in the deck for solo play, you place a X somewhere on your board. If your opponent hits your trap, so if they cross, in this case, E4, they would lose a point or 3 points. So then we add up the scores. 15 total. Now 15 is not great. It's not horrible, but not great. I want to say I think my high is around 23, but 15 is not too bad. And I'm actually just going to slide this up and out of the way and play one more game quickly, since try and take this around 45 minutes. So you can see there are 2 cards left over in the deck from last game. Just take the cards, a quick shuffle. So honestly, there's a second reason as well why I haven't erased that. I want to remember that I scored 15 so that I can enter it into my stats. My goal is to play a board game a day equivalent. So I've played 1 game so far today. This will be game 2. And just going to see if I can make it so I play games 365 times during the year, or play 3 complete games 365 times. I've been including stuff like my Tainted Grail playthrough as well. So I had 3 of these angles and 1 cross to start out. Won't lie, that's a little weird. I'm going to go start it in from here, hit weapon A, let's make the turn there. So right now, obviously, I don't really have that much of a plan as to what I'm going to do. Last time I was trying to knock out as many monsters as possible. This time I have a weapon already, but I'm not too far away from being able to turn and get that dragon. So I have 3 straight lines and a T this time, which means I could get that dragon right away if I want to, and I think I'm going to. I'm basically committing myself to getting as many treasures as I can. Let's circle the dragon just so I remember I have that score section. It's fairly obvious I have the dragon, but straight line, T, straight line, straight line. Lovely. That's completely worthless for kind of my plan at this point in time. I guess. No, it is completely worthless because I can't use the T right here since I will be hitting a solid edge. I guess I might as well start working my way up to this treasure. Yeah, and we'll leave it like that. I could switch the direction that T is going to the side. I think I do want to actually go here. That sets me up to get that treasure down there as well, potentially. Actually, I'm going to completely undo what I did that turn, because I need to get to this treasure somehow, and this gets me a long ways towards it. 1, 2, 3. And I am going to flip that T again. So that gets me a weapon as well, so that's some points. We have a dead end, a T, and a turn. So I'm actually going to use that to get this treasure down here. I'm going to go 4, turn, 4, dot, 4. So I couldn't use one of the dead ends, but now I have gotten myself a treasure. So I'm at 1 treasure and a couple weapons and a negative. I gotta draw 2, so I got a cross, a T, and a turn. And then I gotta draw 2 more, another cross, and a dead end. So that is actually pretty nice. Let's see. Where do I want to go? I could go 5. Oh, let's. Can't get this treasure. No, I can. So then sword, or weapon, I should say. So I go there. Then I turn in 5. Then I use my cross here, second one, 5. And then I dead end right here for 5. So my path is for the day. But that gets me another treasure and a weapon. Generally, alright, yeah, you too, Studio Lineston. Have a good rest of your day. Good luck putting the kiddos to bed. But, so what I was able to do was hit 2 different things that time. And fairly often, like if you can do that, that is really nice. So now I have a T, a line, and 2 dead ends. So basically, I just need to find a way to get a little something. At this point in time, there's not... Having 2 dead ends in a single time means that you're always lacking in what you can do. So I'm just going to, since I can't get either of those treasures, I'm just going to take out Monster F here. This is round 6. Straight line. Dead end. That will give me some points. However, I now have more negative points as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is round 7. We have a turn. Okay, there's that draw 2. For a cross and a T. I have a T and a turn. So is there any way to pull off like multiple things? I'd love to be able to get this treasure as well as do something else. Because I don't think I can't get this treasure because I need something with a straight line for it, and anything that I would do would lock me or would hit a wall. Can't deal with monster C. Could deal with monster A or E. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so plan is turn here. It's a 7. Straight across. That's a, or T, I should say. Turn here. So now I've used both turns and 1 T. I can put the cross in here. So I've taken out weapon there. And I just have a T left, which I can flip now this way and take out monster A. So that we score. Slide it back up a little bit over. 2 for each loot that I have crossed paths with, doubled if I have the dragon. I do, so I've crossed paths with 2 treasures, so that'd be 4, doubled becomes 8. 1 for each weapon I have. I have 4. This is going to be a much better game than last time. I think I do have the -4 down there though. 2 or 4 for each monster I killed, so I've done that to 2 of them. That's 8. -2 for every monster that I've crossed that I haven't killed. That's a 0. +1 for each unused entry. I have 1, 2, 3 this time. And then -4 for each unused card. So we have 16. These 2 cancel out. 16 from the 8s. 19 total points. So 4 points better than last time. Had I been able to... I think my best is like a 23. So had I not had those 2 cards that I couldn't use, had I, say, gotten those 2 cards instead, that would have then given me additional points. Granted, this corner, I was always only ever going to be able to use 3 to get this treasure. So I was always going to have a -2. But 1 more card, potentially... I don't think how I'm set up right now couldn't have given me anything more, but potentially could have set me up for picking up something else. So that is the game Deadliest Doodles. And it's too far up. That's going to be the stream for tonight. thank you all so much for checking it out. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe, ring that bell for a notification as to when I go live. Generally, it's going to be 8 o'clock Central Time every Wednesday. At least that's my goal. And if you enjoy this content, I have a whole lot more that I put out. So to kind of do a rundown on everything that I do and kind of like the weekly schedule. So Monday through Friday, over on nerdologists.com, I post articles daily. Generally board game related or RPG related, though I do cover other topics. Today's articles, there were 2 of them. The first is a Wednesday tradition. Every Wednesday I do an article series called Back or Brick, where I talk about a Kickstarter game, give some pros, cons, thoughts on the game, and whether or not I'd back it, or if it's a brick. So that's where the back or brick comes from. So beyond that, today I also did an article about being a completionist. Not necessarily... Well, I am kind of in some ways. Obviously, you can see that I've just picked up 2 expansions for a game that I have yet to play. But I talk about how to be a completionist and whether or not being a completionist is a good or bad thing, and how you can try to make it into more of a healthy thing if you do have those tendencies. Because I do in some ways, but not necessarily in others. So that's what some of the type of content that I put out every weekday. There are also, normally it's just 1 episode or article a day. Fridays, generally I do a series called Friday Night Dnd, which basically is campaign ideas and tips for helping you run your own D&D game. So ideas for different D&D games, things like that. I also talk about the Dungeons & Dragons game, the Tower of the Gods game that I am running currently. On Tuesday morning, so by the time you get up on your Tuesday, assuming you are in the US, if not at 1 a.m. Central Time, so do the math for when that might be, or the time that might be where you're at. There's my podcast, 10-Minute Marvel, that comes out. It is approximately 10 minutes an episode Marvel news and topic show. So obviously right now the topics have been dominated by the episodes of WandaVision that have been coming out, and I'll just say I have been loving it. Then, like I said, today on the Wednesdays at 8 Central Time, I am trying to go live for Malts and Meeples unboxings and gameplay. Next week I'll probably have some unboxings as well, as I know I have a shipment coming in from Miniature Market with a few different things. And I kind of want to talk about why I picked them up, just to help people see different games and see what different games look like. And I want to do, when I do unboxings, stuff like this. And then eventually I am going to get back to playing some bigger campaign games as well in there, or stuff like Pandemic Legacy Season 2, I think is going to be the next bigger thing that I do. So that's the vast majority of the content that I put out. If you enjoy the content, if you haven't checked out the website, please do so. Or if you haven't checked out the podcast, please do so. I hope that they're entertaining for you as they are for me to put out. But if you are enjoying the content, please consider, like I said, subscribing to this channel, ringing the bell for notifications as to when I go live. Leave a thumbs up on the videos. Check out the backlog of videos that I've already done. You can also subscribe and share the podcast if it is something that interests you as well. And I have recently added over on Patreon, my own Patreon page, where you can find me patreon.com/nerdologists. And you can help support me financially. This is a side project that I do. The video stuff, the podcast, the website. I do not have advertisements on any of them at this point in time because I don't want to start just having advertisements everywhere. So if you want to help support the content that is coming out and help support and grow the equipment and for recording stuff, for this video stuff, possibly add in more content, whatever it might be that money will help me with, it's all going to be put back into this site and this channel. So who knows, it might be put into getting a Kickstarter game that I want normally in a year, or it might be put into upgrading the camera that I have. But that is a lot to wrap up with. So just thank you all so much for watching. I do really appreciate it. And it's always fun interacting with people who are in the chat as well. But with that, bottoms up.